I've got a United States officer cadet uniform from West Point.
I can't believe they'd actually wear this thing in the summertime. It's all wool and leather.
Well, they make them sweat it out.
West Point jacket that made. Rick break his own rules. Rick has seen a lot of military gear come through his shop. Helmets, medals, even full uniforms. But this one hits differently. A man walks in carrying what looks like a basic West Point cadet uniform. But the moment Rick gets a closer look, he knows it's not just another old jacket. It's all wool and leather, made before comfort became a military priority, and yet the condition is almost too good to be true.
I've collected for a long time, and now sell this item because I need the money. And the lowest I'll take for it is $3,000.
So how did you come about this?
I purchased this from a military auction about 15 to 18 years ago.
The seller claims it belonged to a U.S. officer who attended West Point in the early 1900s. At first, Rick is skeptical. He's heard all kinds of stories, but then the name Griswold comes up, and suddenly everything changes. That name rings loud in Rick's mind. General Griswold wasn't just any officer. He was the only general from Nevada to serve in World War II. That kind of pedigree can turn a dusty piece of cloth into a historical artifact worth thousands.
He was the commanding general of the Third Army. He was one of the generals that went into the Philippines, I think Guadalcanal, and you can check it out. And it says Griswold, and it says 12/17/09. One of his family members contacted me by email to verify that that is his signature.
Rick inspects it carefully. The buttons, the wool, the inked name inside, all signs point to something real, something big. But he doesn't jump, not yet. He's been burned before and he knows better than to trust a story without proof. So he calls in one of his top experts, a museum curator who's seen more vintage uniforms than most collectors even dream of.
So how much did you want for it?
Probably go 35 on it.
3,500?
Yeah.
I'll have to do a little dig and find out what it's worth.
Okay.
When the expert arrives, Rick steps back and lets him do his thing. Every inch of the jacket gets examined. The stitching, the buttonholes, the inner lining. Nothing escapes scrutiny. The expert points out a few repairs and alterations. Nothing shady, just signs of wear and time. But more importantly, he finds no red flags. Everything about this jacket lines up with the period. The materials are authentic. The structure is right, the name checks out, and most impressive of all, the condition is almost museum grade.
As I'm looking at areas like the buttonholes here, the way that those are lined, the way the stitching is done, all of that seems correct to me. This has been added on, and that's probably a later piece. You can see that it's a different kind of fabric. It's not the same fabric as here.
It's official. The jacket is real, and Rick wants it. But here's the problem. Pricing something this rare is like guessing the value of a unicorn. There are no comps, no sales history, and no charts to go by. Just gut instinct and the hope that someone out there will recognize the story behind the item. The seller wants $3,500, but after hearing how special it is, he throws out a new number. Rick laughs it off. There's no way. Even for a jacket tied to a general, that's high.
Your personal opinion, what do you think it's worth?
I can speak to whether it's real or not. I can tell you what I know about it, but I can't tell you anything on the value. Check that on your own.
Trying to get prices out of him for years. He won't give them, period. He just tells you if it's real.
Okay.
And
The two start dancing around numbers. The seller won't budge from his belief that this is a showpiece worthy of a museum or a serious collector's trophy wall. Rick agrees it is special, but his business brain is running the math. He needs room to profit, and this kind of item might take a while to flip. Time is money, and money doesn't wait around.
hey, man, the big question. What do you want for it?
$8,500. Around in the $3,500 price range on it.
It's really, really cool, but it's so hard to price things when there's only one of them.
He throws out an offer that's almost an insult. The seller winces but doesn't walk. Instead, they haggle like old school traders at a street market. The seller wants some store credit to soften the blow. Rick's still hesitant, but eventually they find a middle ground. It's not ideal, but it's a deal.
I gotta make money, and I just don't know if I can on it. That's the problem. You mean, literally, I think I'd buy it for $1,500.
How about 15 cash and 12 in trade?
That I go 1,500 cash.
Give me 15 cash and 5 trade.
Okay, deal.
Sounds good.
And just like that, the West Point jacket changes hands. Rick counts out the money, grinning like a kid with a new toy. He knows he just added one of the most unique military artifacts he's ever seen to his collection. It's a piece of American history tied to a name that actually means something. Whether he flips it for a big payday or holds onto it as a centerpiece, he's won this round.
I have a Atlanta Braves 1995 World Series ring.
Oh, that's a pretty cool year, man.
Team of the 90s. Got there 7 times and then finally won World Series in 95.
The championship ring that crashed and burned. A man walks into the gold and silver pawn shop holding what looks like sports royalty in a box, a 1995 Atlanta Braves World Series ring. Shiny, bold, glittering with diamonds, and tied to a team that finally clinched a long-awaited victory. It's not just a ring, it's a symbol of the Braves' one shining moment in the 90s. The man says he's moving to Vietnam and wants a cool $13,000 for it. It's a high price, sure, but it's a championship ring, or so it seems.
I came to the pawn shop today to try to sell my 1995 Atlanta Braves World Series ring. I'd like to sell it because my wife and I were moving to Vietnam, hoping to get $13,000 inside.
Corey and Chumley are interested. The Braves were a powerhouse stacked with legends, Maddox, Chipper Jones, and Dave Justice. And in 1995, they didn't just play, they dominated. Rings like these are big money to collectors, and if this is the real deal, it could be a major score. But there's one big question hanging in the air. Who did this ring actually belong to?
This belonged to Ted, and he issued it or gave it away. Could make it worth more. They had some pretty good people on the team back then, didn't they?
Dave Justice, Greg Maddox,
Chipper Jones.
Greg Maddox won the Cy Young. It's a really good franchise. They just couldn't get it done all them other years.
Think they're the team of the 90s?
The guy claims he got it from a friend. There's nothing specific, no solid proof, but there's one name engraved inside that lights a fire. Turner, as in Ted Turner, the billionaire owner of the team. Now, things are getting strange. Why would Ted Turner, a media mogul with more money than most people can dream of, pawn off a championship ring? That's the first red flag.
I mean, everybody wants a player's ring because it was by a guy who actually won the World Series. So what do you want to do with it, my man?
Yeah, I want to sell it. I'd like to get $13,000 for it.
13,000, huh? Championship rings are one of my dad's favorite things to buy.
Corey isn't sold. He knows the difference between a player's ring and a staff ring, which is night and day, thousands of dollars apart. Still, there's potential value here, and he wants a second opinion. The seller clearly isn't thrilled about waiting around, but Corey's not putting up 13 grand without a deeper look. If he's wrong, the shop eats a huge loss.
You mind if I have a buddy come down and take a look at it?
How come? I'd like to get the money and get out of here.
You know, right now, if you have to hold me to an offer, I'm going to offer you $4 grand because it's a staff ring. My guy might come in and tell you it's worth a little bit more.
All right, that's fair. Okay.
All right, let me give him a call, and I'll be right back.
All right.
Enter the expert. A memorabilia appraiser walks in and lays down the hard truth. The ring, while flashy, doesn't have the Jostens logo, the mark of the company that made the official team rings. That's strike one. Then there's the Turner engraving, which sounds exciting at first until you remember Ted Turner doesn't need cash to sell old jewelry. That's strike two.
I think it might be Ted Turner's ring, which is kind of crazy. I mean, what do you think it might be worth?
Let's take a look at the ring here. We have a large diamond set on top of a blue stone, and we're going to have 18 smaller diamonds surrounding it. The company Jostens, they made the rings for the 95 championship Braves. Unfortunately, this isn't even a staff ring. This is what they call a salesman sample. They're provided to the team beforehand so they can get a look at the ring, see if they like it, approve it, and they make them from there.
Strike three? This isn't even a staff ring. It's what's known as a salesman sample, a mock-up made before the actual rings are approved. Basically, it's a demo, something a rep uses to show the team what their championship bling might look like if they win. It's not handed to players, not earned on the field, and definitely not worth 5 figures.
Ted Turner's not a guy that needs to hawk his ring or sell it to come up with a few quick bucks, so there's no doubt that this is what we would call a salesman sample.
Okay.
They still do have value. People just want to own a piece of the 95 Braves. With the original box and everything, you're looking at around $2 grand.
All right.
Whatever dreams the seller had of cashing in are instantly crushed. The expert puts the value at around $2,000 maybe, because some collectors might still want a piece of Braves history even if it's just a replica. But for the pawn shop, that's not enough margin. Corey drops his offer down to $800. It's a sharp fall from $13,000, and the seller isn't happy. He doesn't just take the hit, he gets bitter. Says he's done with the shop, calls the expert a bozo. He walks out insulted and empty-handed, mumbling that he won't be back.
I don't know where he came from. All of a sudden, he comes through the door and he's Mr. Expert on baseball, so I don't know. I was really disappointed.
Well, if you heard what my guy has to say, thinks it's a salesman sample, I would offer you around $800 for it.
Oh, that's okay. And I'll just take it home.
All right, my man, I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right.
For Corey, it's just another day of saving the shop from a financial landmine. This isn't the first time someone's walked in hoping to cash in on something that sparkles, and it won't be the last. But the truth is, sparkle doesn't mean value. And in a shop like this, one small missing detail, like a logo or a name, can turn gold into dust.
How's it going?
Good, how you doing today?
What do we got here?
I got a Pez collection I'm looking to unload today.
Got any candy?
No, these have no candy in them at all.
the Pez Meltdown. A man strolls in with a bright smile and a cardboard box stuffed to the brim with vintage Pez dispensers. He's confident, almost too confident. To him, these aren't just toys, they're Americana. He throws around comparisons to baseball cards and Barbie dolls. This isn't junk, he insists. It's history, it's cash.
I'm coming to the pawn shop today to try to sell some of my Pez collection. I like Pez collecting because they're pretty cool. I mean, it's real Americana.
Chumley humors him at first. He's seen rare Pez go for solid money, especially if they're boxed and in good condition. The seller even has some impressive pieces. A Casper the Friendly Ghost still in its original 1960s packaging. A boxed Mickey Mouse? An old-school Batman with a design Rick hasn't seen in years? The man rattles off price estimates like he's reading a menu. $400 here, $300 there. Bozo, Zorro, Tinkerbell, and about 50 others follow. According to the seller, this box of candy-headed nostalgia should fetch around $5,000.
The Mickey Mouse in the original box. It's a die cut. This piece here goes for about $350, $400. One of my coolest pieces. I like it.
But Corey's face says it all. He's not buying it. The moment the man drops his asking price, Corey practically reels. That number is ridiculous. Not because Pez dispensers aren't collectible, but because there's no room to make money on them. Corey knows the market, and the problem is saturation. Too many sellers, too many duplicates, and not nearly enough demand to move this kind of inventory quickly. Corey isn't running a museum. He's running a business.
What do you want for him?
I like to grab $2,500 for him.
I had to grab it somewhere else. I'm gonna offer you $1,000, my friend.
He counters with $1,000, an offer that instantly sucks the air out of the room. And just like that, the seller's cheerful energy flips. He's insulted, furious even. To him, this is highway robbery. He argues that just 3 of the Pez dispensers could cover most of that offer. He demands at least $2,000, but Corey's not budging.
I put them on the internet, next thing you know, I'm competing with 5 other guys selling the same Pez.
The seller clearly doesn't understand the reality of the resale world. Those pieces might be worth that much to a collector, but to Corey, they're a slow-moving liability. Pez collectors are a niche crowd, and unless he wants a shelf full of cartoon heads collecting dust for months, Corey needs to buy low or not at all. But the standoff ends in a crash. The seller storms out, grumbling that Corey just disrespected the entire Pez community.
$1,000 is what I can do.
It's fine.
All right, buddy,
Get out of here, man. I can't believe it.
In the end, no deal is made, no Pez changes hands, and Rick is left shaking his head, wondering how anyone could seriously believe that a $1,000 offer for 50 plastic candy toys was an insult. Maybe the Pez market is wild, but in this shop, reality always wins, and Rick isn't about to lose his shirt for some cartoon heads on sticks.
I have an amazingly rare gun.
Amazingly rare.
Yes. The Smith & Wesson 320 revolving rifle. They only made 977 of them.
People collect Smith & Wessons. This is the crown jewel right here. It's really rare.
This gun is almost priceless. Some people walk into the pawn shop thinking they're holding buried treasure, and sometimes they actually are. That's what happens when a woman steps in, cradling what looks like a bizarre old revolver, but it's not just any old gun. It's a Smith & Wesson 320 revolving rifle, one of the rarest firearms the company ever made. Fewer than 1,000 of these awkward, dangerous, oddly designed weapons were ever manufactured. The woman found it at a yard sale, a literal yard sale. It sounds wild, but stranger things have happened in this store.
I came to the pawn shop today to sell my Smith & Wesson 320. I'd like to sell my gun today because I have my very first granddaughter, so I'd like to use the money for her. I'm looking to get $5,000, and the least amount I'm willing to take is $1,000.
Rick and Corey both know exactly what they're looking at, sort of. The thing is in terrible shape, rusted, beat up, missing parts. But even in this condition, it commands attention. It's a piece of failed innovation, a relic from the 1880s when gun makers were throwing everything at the wall to see what stuck. And this one definitely didn't stick. In fact, the design was such a disaster that the people who actually tried to fire it often ended up with powder burns on their hands. Not shrapnel, powder burns. That's how flawed the setup was.
So why is it so rare?
Smith & Wesson didn't play with the prototype a lot, and it was a bad design. So no one bought them, and that's why it's the most collectible Smith & Wesson ever made.
Yeah, I found out they would shoot it as a rifle. The shrapnel would rip up their arm.
It's not shrapnel, it was powder burns.
Collectors love this kind of story. A bad idea that somehow made it into production, got yanked off the shelves, and ended up as a ghost in history. Now, over 100 years later, it's become a unicorn, a rare misfire that's oddly valuable simply because no one bought it back then. But there's a problem, a big one.
So basically you were stuck, you could turn it into a pistol, or you could use it as a hammer. Do you have the shoulder stock or any of the other parts for it?
Unfortunately, I threw it away.
You threw away the stock.
Unfortunately, I did not know it went with that gun.
Originally, this gun had a rifle stock and a longer barrel, which helped define its weird identity as a revolving rifle. Without those parts, it's not really complete. When Rick asks if she has the rest of it, the woman admits that she threw it away, gone. The original wooden stock, worth thousands by itself, is collecting dirt in some landfill. Rick almost chokes. That missing stock might have doubled or tripled the gun's value on the spot. The loss is brutal. Still, it's not every day that a Smith & Wesson 320 comes through the door. Even beat up, even broken, it's rare enough to call in the big guns, literally.
And how much did you want for it?
I was hoping to get $5,000 for it.
This is one of those things, you know, you got a really rare gun here, but as far as condition goes, it couldn't get much worse. Let me have my buddy come in and take a look at it. Let's get his opinion on it, and we'll go from there.
Sounds good.
Rick brings in Craig Gottlieb, a military antiques expert with decades of experience. When Craig sees the gun, his eyes light up. He hasn't held one of these in years. He explains just how strange and dangerous the weapon is, and how companies like Colt and Winchester also tried to make similar guns back in the day, with equally bad results. Powder blast to the hand? Not exactly good marketing.
Wow. And I haven't had one of these in my hands in a long time. This is a
Yes.
very, very rare gun. Where'd you get it?
I actually bought it at a yard sale.
I do this for a living, and I never find things like this at a yard sale. That's amazing. This gun was made between 1880 and 1890.
But as Craig inspects the gun closer, the hope starts to fade. The condition is rough. It's missing too much. Yes, the rubber grips are original and rare, but that's about all it has going for it. Craig delivers the gut punch. In its current state, the gun is not worth anywhere near what the woman wants.
Do you have the stock?
I didn't know it went with the gun and I threw it away.
You know, frankly, if you had the stock would probably be worth just by itself as an old piece of wood $5,000 or $6,000. With this, it's in relic condition, but it does have the original grips. These are vulcanized rubber grips, and those between $800 and $1,000.
This is a hard fall for a gun that could have fetched over $15,000 in mint condition with all its original parts. The woman's face says it all. She was hoping for $5,000, maybe more. But reality hits like a train in this shop, and Rick knows better than to sugarcoat it. Still, Rick makes an offer. That's him being generous. It's a piece he'll probably never see again, but the missing parts kill its value.
So, are you still interested in selling it?
I don't know that I would want to sell it for less than $1,000.
I'll give you $800 for it. Condition is everything with old guns, okay?
And I realize that.
All right, $850.
If you do $875, you're gonna make money on it. I really believe you're gonna make money on it.
All right, $875.
All right, thank you so much.
Eventually, after some back and forth, they settled. She takes the deal. It's not the windfall she hoped for, but the money is going to her granddaughter, her very first. And in the end, it's a solid payday for something that once sat forgotten on a table at a yard sale.
Hello. Yes, actually, I have this.
All right. Are you a stamp collector?
I'm not, but they do appear to be very valuable. They're extremely old.
All right. The stamp that lost us the American colonies. Stamp of 1765 issues in accordance with the Greenville Stamp Act and the attempt to tax the American colonies.
The stamp deal that almost slipped away. Some items that walk through the doors of the gold and silver pawn shop are cool. Others are rare. But occasionally, something hits the counter that feels like a piece of history itself. That's exactly what happens when a woman shows up with a collection of stamps he claims are from the 1700s, right around when America was still under British rule. He says they're linked to the infamous Stamp Act of 1765, the same act that pushed the American colonies to the brink of rebellion. The moment Chumley lays eyes on them, he knows Rick will have a field day, but Rick isn't around, and that's when things get interesting.
I'm here to sell some old stamps that I have. They're definitely unique. I know they're not like the stamps that we use today, that's for sure. I'm asking $250 for the stamps. I feel like they're worth some value because of how old they are.
This is pretty cool. I mean, basically what the Stamp Act was.
Instead of sending the woman away, Chumley calls in a trusted expert. This isn't just some stamp with a nice design. It could be a relic from the very spark that ignited the American Revolution. The expert, an absolute authority on British revenue stamps, starts breaking it all down. Some of the stamps in the collection date back to 1694.
I thought it was pretty interesting, but Rick wasn't around, and I figured even if he was, he'd call you down anyways.
He would love this. Yes, you're right. These are really, really interesting. This is something that a collector has put together who collected British revenue stamps. These ones up here are from the 1694 series, which was for general use by the British.
Others are straight out of the Stamp Act era. One of them in particular catches his eye. It says America in bold letters, a clear sign it was printed specifically for the colonies. The expert doesn't hesitate. To any serious collector, this isn't just paper, it's a treasure.
The British issued all sorts of revenue stamps in the 18th century. If it says America, we're in business. Yes, it does. Yeah, this one says America. This is wonderful. So this is an important stamp.
The valuation shocks everyone. On a good day, this set could pull in up to $1,000 in a proper stamp auction. That's 4 times what the seller originally asked for. The woman lights up. For someone who thought she was holding onto dusty old paper, the number is life-changing. But then comes the negotiation.
What kind of value would you put on it?
Well, the basal value is about $400 or $500 if you're buying it in a stamp auction, but this also has some other stamps. I think to any advanced collector, it's easily a $1,000 item.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
What starts as a calm conversation quickly turns into a tense back and forth. The seller wants top dollar, full stop. Unimpressed by the sudden spike in confidence, Chumley tries to reel the number back in. He offers less, a lot less, but the seller doesn't budge. She reminds Chumley of the expert's assessment, standing her ground like someone who just learned their childhood toy is actually a priceless artifact.
I'm working with 1,000 now. How does that sound to you?
It sounds like a little too much to me. Would you take $450?
$650?
Think you could do $600?
I don't think so. That's a little too low.
$250 to $650, huh?
I could just take him back with me.
I really want to show him to my boss, so I'm gonna make a deal. $650.
$650.
All right.
Eventually, Chumley makes a move. He raises the offer slightly, then again, until they land at an agreeable price. Chumley gets the stamps. The seller walks out with more than double her original asking price.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
What do we got here?
I have these 2 Gnostic amulets.
Probably have said his name many, many times. You just didn't know it.
The Gnostic amulets that took Rick down a rabbit hole. It's another slow day at the shop when a woman strolls in, holding something that immediately catches Rick's eye. She doesn't say much at first, just that they were her grandfather's. But when she unwraps the small bundle, it's like time stops for a second. 2 ancient stones, dark and heavy, with symbols carved deep into the surface. They're strange, beautiful, and unmistakably old.
Today I'm at the pawn shop trying to sell my Gnostic amulets. They're my grandfather's, and I don't know a lot about them, but they look really rare. I'm gonna be traveling to Japan next year.
Rick takes one look and knows exactly what he's dealing with. Gnostic amulets. Not replicas, not costume props, real, ancient spiritual relics. He spots the figure of Abraxas carved into one of them, and suddenly, this isn't just a pawn transaction anymore. This is history walking through the door. Gnosticism was a spiritual movement that preached awakening through knowledge, not religion. Organized religion didn't like that, so over time their beliefs were buried, their writings destroyed, and their symbols forgotten, except by a few historians and apparently this woman's grandfather.
So we don't know a lot about the Gnostic, know a little bit about it from some need a god, but there was God. You could have like a spiritual.
Rick's fascinated. The stones are carved from bloodstone, a dark red mineral that ancient cultures believed had protective powers. Back then, people didn't think bad luck came from bad choices. They thought it came from evil spirits, so they wore amulets like these to keep the darkness away. To most people, they might just look like weird rocks, but to Rick, they're keys to a forgotten world.
This is probably from the Middle East. These are on a natural stone carved into bloodstone. That's what that kind of stone is called. You shouldn't have been gambling. It was because there was an evil spirit nearby.
But even with all that history, Rick knows this is a tough sell. The woman wants $5,000. It's a bold ask, but she's confident. Rick stays calm and calculating. He respects the history, but he runs a business. After weighing the risk, he counters with a number that makes more sense to him. Back and forth they go, each side pushing for a little more, a little less. It's not a heated argument, but there's tension in the air.
I was looking to get 5,000.
They're a religious item from like the Roman period, which makes them really, really cool, but they're difficult to sell. I'll give you 2,000 for them.
What about?
All right, we got a deal?
Finally, they settled at $2,500. Rick shakes her hand, but his mind is still turning. He's holding relics that survived empires, wars, and centuries of suppression. Pieces that speak of gods that aren't remembered, and beliefs that were erased. He's seen gold bars and pirate swords, but this is different.